Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Discovering Multifamily podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Scandariato with Red Knight Properties. And today we have a special guest here with us, actually someone close to us who we work with and we highly recommend for investor management. And he could tell you more about his platform, but very excited to have him, Brad St. Onge with InvestNext. And Brad, go take it to the ringers. Who are you and why do we see you on LinkedIn popping up every day? And what have you been busy with in terms of the commercial multifamily syndication world? What's been going on with that, especially in 2021?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. And obviously you're a valued partner of us. We've seen just kind of the growth in the last, at least I have personally in the last year and a half. So it's good to see what you and Brian are doing, what the podcast is doing for the community in general. So keep up the good work. It's pretty awesome. But myself, I am head of partnerships at InvestNext, and it basically just means I'll, try to just create or kind of move us along in pair with different groups that may bring more value to the platform. So we'll have focus groups and kind of talk to some of our key partners like yourself and see where, maybe some suggestions on how we can take your feedback and then apply it to the platform to make it better than it currently is. And then just keep making it better, taking that feedback, because we don't want to have us give our opinion is what we need to change. It's more of like asking the community, all right, what do you like? This is what we came up with it. How should we break it? How should we edit it? How should we change it, adapt it? So you guys have been a good driver for that over the last, at least definitely the last year. It's been good working with you guys because we've been just kind of taking some of the feedback or some of maybe the pain points you've had and then added it to the portal, made it even better than it already is. So I've been in investor relations for, almost 5 years. I've been with InvestNext for a little less than 2 years. So I have a little bit of background in the industry and I know how to raise capital and then how to use the platform. So my goal too, besides the partnership aspect of the company, is to try to make everyone familiar, as many people as possible with the capital raising, because we deal with a lot of newer GPs as well as some bigger, larger kind of REIT companies as well too. So in 2021, it's been a huge growth year for us. So we've been pretty, we wanted to make sure we had a portal, a platform that we could scale. So we've been doing that for 3.5 years. And then we got it to the point where we think, all right, now we can take this to market and really start driving and really start pushing it. So that's why you've kind of been seeing my face kind of popping around. So we're finally getting to the point where like, all right, let's grow this bad boy. Let's get our name out there. Let's start throwing InvestNext in everyone's face. You're going to kind of see a lot more of that over the next couple of years, especially the next 3 to 6 months as we really wrap this thing up. So that's why you'll definitely start seeing more of that stuff too. And so this is good, having partnerships with people like yourself who have podcasts and then kind of an outlet for that too.
Yeah, it's amazing to really see the growth of your company over the past couple of years. And full disclosure, I am a client of Brad's, and they have phenomenal service and their platform has been incredible. And the reason we use their platform is to streamline whenever we have a new opportunity or a new investment deal for our network, we use their platform to streamline that capital raising process. And we could talk a little bit about how that works in terms of subscription agreements, private placement memorandums, operating agreements, deal rooms, and how is that really changed from, a few years ago, we used to just send PDFs and our, investors and ourselves would just sign and we print them out and we review them. And, sometimes that process could take, months, especially if you have, 20, 30 partners in a deal. You're going to have to get all of them to sign, and you have a timetable from when you need to close the deal from when you had it under contract. So can you talk a little bit about the average time it takes for a capital raise? And it doesn't need to, be, let's call it $1 million or $5 million, or maybe you even tell us what's the most amount a sponsor has raised using your platform. And then talk about the deal room and what are the investors' expectations when they sign up for your deal. And then even moving forward, when you're doing your reporting as a general partner or operating manager, you're reporting to your investors, whether that's, quarterly financials, monthly financials, or deal updates every month in terms of the property level. How does your platform help streamline that?
Yeah, the first question, and this is why I found InvestNext about 4.5 years ago, was time. How long did it take? So I was doing the same thing you were. So I was sending emails. This is when I was raising capital as part of an investor relations team. So I would send out emails with the questionnaire, the subscription agreement, et cetera. Investors would sign that. They'd mail it in or they'd email it in. They'd send a check for $200,000 or whatever it may be. And then you look at the paperwork and it'd be incorrect. And then you'd have to like go back and kind of like, hey, you filled out page 4 wrong. Could you refill this page out? And they'd be annoyed with it, but they'd fill it out and send it back. So we started like recording that process. Like, how long is this capital raise taking? And it was about on average of 43 minutes per investor. And we were doing 75 to 100 investors every capital raise that we had. So that was a long time of just tracking the email correspondence, tracking the paperwork back, having them re-sign it because they messed it up, because there wasn't a way to force them to sign certain areas of the form. Getting their cash, that would always take a while as well too. So I started looking for avenues, and that's where I found InvestNext, but that's a different story. But so one of the things I'm really happy about the platform that we have is our deal room. So you can create a deal room, and essentially what it does is it's like your deck, your offering memorandum, your investor prospectus, whatever you want to call it. So you pull some information from that out in the deal room. Deal room will create a link that you can then send out to your investors. So it'll have the actual deck that you can add as an attachment. You can put key metrics in there, whatever sort of attachments you want to show. If you want to show pro forma, et cetera, you can show it. So you can start getting soft commitments and send that out. They can see all that information. They can start driving that. But if you've got all your documents in, so the subscription agreement, we utilize HelloSign for that. So it's all in the portal. But essentially what you can do, and what one of our investors did, is they raised $14.8 million and it took about 4 days. So they created the deal room, they send a link out, and now once you send the link, the investors can actually either log in, or they can then just click on the link, create their username. They can create a username and password. You can either auto approve that, or you can set to approve everyone if you're 506B. And then they can just drive that whole process. So they can see the deal room. They can go, perfect, look at your documents. This is cool. Maybe let's invest. Let's sign these paperwork. So they can hit invest now, start signing the paperwork. You've now already built templates out. So, and you and I have done this a few times, and kudos to you, because it's gone from, me running the whole process with you at the very beginning to you guys. And like I said, kudos, because you guys are diving into it. You guys are actually using the platform, getting better at it. You're now creating your own deal rooms, and I'll just kind of look at it after and be like, all right, this is what I'd do. But what we've utilized over the last year is pulling in automatic fields. So we can now see if you've got an investing entity that's using their investing entity again. So let's say I've invested with you guys 2 years ago, and I have an LLC that's already in there. We already know a lot of that information. We know the address, the tax ID number, the investing entity name. So we can actually pull that into HelloSign and not have them put that information in again. So that's kind of one of the huge features. Or if I was a new investor, I could create that, and then we could still pull that in, because I'm filling it out in a form, but it's not replicating the process throughout the form, because there's a couple areas where it may ask your address, twice, may ask your social or your tax ID or name. So we try to pull that information and make it a little bit easier. But so essentially, get back to the main story here. You send a link out. Me as an investor, I can fill out the documents. You'll get pinged that you need to countersign, so you can countersign that. And you haven't tracked or done much from that process. You've sent the link out, and essentially the investor can do all that. And then we've added another feature at the very end. And I think you guys utilize this, but we added inbound ACH. So the investors can now actually send in their capital at the end of it through the portal. So they can go in, integrate their bank account, and they can send the funds in. So you're no longer going to your bank and tracking everything down and making sure that's, you get 800 grand on a Tuesday. You have to then go reconcile all that back into the portal and see, all right, they've done all this. So we added that feature, which has been a huge success over the last, did it about maybe 90 days ago, it seems. seems like it's years flying by, but maybe 60, 90 days ago. And it's been really just taken off I'd say the last 30, 45 days. So everyone's starting to utilize that versus having them send a wire. And it's a little more safer too. So, so you can do the whole process. You can do it over a weekend if it's, if everyone's, into it. Like I said, that 14.8 million, that was not your typical case. This group's, pretty powerful. We've had, I know you guys are currently doing a capital raise right now. How long is your process usually? Because I know it took a little bit longer before, but we couldn't pull all those fields in that we're pulling in now. But I think you've gone from maybe a month process to now it's going a lot quicker than that, right?
It's definitely going a lot quicker on our end for sure. Yeah. Just because, as you were saying, it takes some time when you first set up your portal and your platform to get used to how your subscription documents are, and you have to, customize the fields per each deal. But once you do one or two, like Brad was saying, on our end, we have kind of taken control of it, at least as much as we can. And if we have any questions, we'll reach out to Brad, and he does a great job at responding and fixing the situation. So it's really dropped. I'd say we cut our capital raise at least in half from where we were a year ago in terms of timing. So instead of a month, like you said, now it's around 2 weeks, and we're in the middle of one right now, and we're very, very happy with the progress in barely 2 weeks as of today, and we're recording this at the end of June in 2021. So very happy with the platform. And as Brad said, I think, for us, when we were evaluating, and we could talk a little bit about this too, some competitors in this space, because there are a few platforms, and I was going to ask you about that anyway. I've been approached by some other platforms where they weren't really taking it as a partnership from the get-go. And we're still a relatively smaller company to begin with, speaking for myself. But, for you guys to take a chance with us and to, move forward over the past year and a half, they really come a long way. So, kudos for that. And, just wanted to say it's more of what we think about with you guys is more of a partnership as opposed to some other, almost online, very automated platforms where there's really no human interaction. And if you have questions, they may take days to get back to you. And you and I well know that in the capital raising business, you really want to service your clients and investors as quickly as possible. And you can't have them waiting a couple of days for documents to get back or whatever the situation may be. So I think the platform has really evolved and grown. So I would say, if you're considering any investor management software, if you are a multifamily operator, whatever, real estate operator, or even general private equity, and you're looking for a software to automate your capital raise, this, specifically for real estate, this would be it. But, again, going back to the timing aspect, $14.8 million, it's pretty impressive in 4 days. And you mentioned the ACH, which basically is a direct deposit into the capital raise account. This is more of a software question, but how long has that updating the software taken you? And have you had to hire a lot of people to improve the software over the past couple years?
It depends on the scale of what we're changing. So we get, like I said, we get a ton of feedback, and it's all great. Some people are always like, sorry to say this, but it's like, no, tell us anything, bombard us with stuff. It just makes it better, because if you have a question or you have something that you think you should be updated, then chances are someone else has the same issues that they want to see, or same feature that they want to see to the portal. So it just makes it better. So throw whatever you want at us. You're never annoying us. You're just kind of making it better. Like we always say, if we think it's broke, let's break it and try to make it even better than we think it already is. But some stuff, and I'm like, crazy enough, I'm not like a software guy. I'm more kind of like the sales or customer success. But things that I think are going to take a long time will take a week. And then some things I think are going to be real easier. The development will be like, all right, let's pump the brakes here. This is actually going to take a little bit longer. But I mean, if it's a huge feature, like the inbound payments ACH feature, Kevin, Michael, and Matthew, the founders, were like, we saw everyone was kind of missing out on this. There's, I think, maybe one or two other companies that might be doing this, but we want everyone to do everything. Like I said, we want you to send this out on Friday, go enjoy the weekend with your kids or go to a baseball game, whatever. Come back Monday and start seeing some funds start trickling in, or in transit, they're coming in. All your paperwork's done. You come in and all you have to do is click for your co-sponsor. So that took, I think it was less than a month for them to start coding that and put that in, just from inception to it actually went live. And then we started beta testing it, and we had a couple different groups that betaed it that had capital raises. But it's been, I mean, that's a couple months where we updated the investor portal, which that'll go live probably by the time, maybe you turn these things pretty quick, I think, but maybe not by the time this thing goes live, but over the next couple weeks, the investor portal aspect, so where the investors log in, that's going to have a brand new look, and we're very excited about that. But that's been a couple months, but that was a bigger undertaking. If you've got a feature of, hey, if someone wanted to be able to upload documents, because we never had that, so that was a quick button that we added that took maybe a day. So there's different things that we look at and say, all right, are we getting bombarded with this? Like, are a lot of people asking for this feature? Let's look at it and then say, all right, let's take care of that. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but we've added in that little button on the bottom right, you can email us or hit support up, but there's a feature request section there. And we've started getting a lot of new features from our clients where they just put in a feature, and then you can go in as a client and then vote on it. And then we look at that weekly and say, all right, texting is now a huge thing that everyone's wanting to do from the portal. So just from the vote. So let's try to get that in, or different SEC stuff. So we look at that at a regular basis and say, all right, what's feasible? When we start planning development for the week, we have kind of a big undertaking that we're doing, and then we have a bunch of little things that are, all right, how can we knock this out? Maybe make these little things like simple as deleting more stuff. How can we incorporate that in, and then slowly start putting those in? So it's a different time frame depending on the scale of what it is, but we try to do it as soon as possible. And if it's detrimental to your capital raise, then we'll try to get it. We'll definitely try to expedite that. So that's one of the questions. And then one of the things you were touching on a little earlier was the timing. And one of the things we've wanted to do is with your capital raises, I know you said you have sometimes 24 hours to you finally get your legal documents in, and we don't want to be the barricade on that. So we've started adding a bunch of different videos, help articles to the portal to help you drive it, and then try to make it a little more, user friendly, or so you can start doing that. So you and Brian have been really good at that, because you guys are diving in, you're trying everything on your own. So it went from me doing everything, helping out with everything, to you guys are now doing it and saying, hey, which is good, because then you start telling me more features like, hey, this would be a little easier if we did this for me. It's easy for me, but I use it all the time. So it's like, all right, didn't notice that because I'm using this feature. But the goal is to hopefully make it as user friendly as possible and have you guys drive all that, and not have the software slow you down. But be able to have you just, all right, if I'm doing a capital raise, can you log in, create all this stuff and do all this stuff? And that's where we're trying to get to. So I think we're pretty close. It's always going to keep changing, but support articles help. Diving into the portal like you guys have done definitely helps, because you get more familiar with it, and then hopefully not have the software barricade you or stop you from proceeding with the capital raise, and then having enough literature in our help article section to maybe look at that real quick and say, all right, I can knock this out. Because actually, I was at a conference last week, and I think you emailed me, and by the time I got back to you Sunday, I think on the weekend, you had already emailed me and figured it out by the time. So it was kind of nice, because you dive in and you're like, all right, cool, the answer's here. So that's good to see. It's good to see some of our clients use some of those things that we're trying to get to. So
Definitely. So we're talking a lot about capital raising. Let's talk about the asset management a little bit more. So the great thing that I like about your platform that may be different from some others is I never saw, there are a couple that do provide it, but obviously as an operator, there's something called a waterfall, which is how the sponsor really gets compensated at the end of the day. They have IRR calculations, they have preferred return, they have return on capital. They were able to set up, at least for us, our hierarchical waterfall for us and our investors pretty seamlessly. And we're actually able to make distributions and track them. And it's really important because when you're making distributions and you're dealing with different parties, you want to be able to tell your CPA when it comes for tax return time, or even your bookkeeper when they're booking distributions, hey, go on this platform, or we'll export a report. You guys also have reports, investor reports. How much distributions did this investor receive? What percentage ownership does this investor own? We're able to export that for our accountants or CPA team for when tax return season comes. And I can tell you that, that was a huge burden left off our shoulders, because I literally just went and exported it, as opposed to before I'd be putting together my own spreadsheets and it would take probably 2 weeks longer than it should have. So, in terms of, again, we're going back to timing, it not only helps with the capital raising, but it helps your asset management be more efficient as well. So have you seen that with a lot of other operators giving you feedback there?
Yeah, a lot are using that. Because it's good for transparency too on the investor side. So the investor can log in at any point and see, all right, I gave you 100 grand in, at the end of last year. You've now paid out quarterly. I get my pref quarterly, and you can actually see that. Or they can see if it's a return of capital. If you've done like a refinance, you can start seeing that. I can see my capital account coming back in, because essentially before these platforms, a handful of years ago, it was just all in Excel. And if your investors needed to see that, they couldn't see it anywhere. So they just trust that, all right, I gave this guy 100 grand a couple of years ago. Hopefully I'm getting, but I couldn't even see how much you paid me. I'd have to go back to my bank statements and try to add that up. So transparency is huge. From you to your investors. What that does too is I think that gives them the comfortability to then refer you to some of their friends and family, which is good as well. But I'm very proud of our distribution waterfall, and I'll put it against Excel any day of the week. As long as we set it up correctly, then it's going to kick out the correct numbers. And we'll see. We see a lot of people and I highly want you to run Excel against it the first couple, and we'll go through and show you, where it is and where it's matching up with Excel and where there might be differences. Because sometimes, Excel is going to tell you what you tell Excel to tell you. So whatever formula you put, if you put the formula in wrong, it's going to tell you that to do this. Where I think our distribution waterfalls are 100% accurate, and they can just kick it out. And then once again, creating more time, you don't have to go to your Excel and do, some sort of IRR calculation in there to see if it's calculating the LP right versus the LP and the GP. And it'll run all that stuff for you. But I highly suggest testing it out. And ours is nice because you set it up. I've seen some where I think you send them an Excel form and they do it or something. But anyway, I really like ours, and we're always changing. So we have we'll deal with some REITs that have some unusual payout structures, which is great, because if it's something we don't have, then we'll add it. We're adding another hurdle, I think this week or next week, that we needed to do that we just had never had for some reason. Not a push to it, but an easy thing is like a catch up. So an investor catch up. So that should be live, I'm hoping, the next week or two. If not, hopefully development watches this and then pushes that one out, because I'm saying it's going live in a week or two. But it's good to see with the various GPs, owner operators, and how they do everything. And like I said, it's always good. If we don't have it, I'm kind of excited, because then we can just develop it and stuff like that. If you're kicking out a distribution, we'll do that in a couple of days. We'll figure out how to do it and kick that out. That's not going to take terribly long. Getting back to maybe your software question before, but one of the other things too that you kind of touched on was the reporting. So at the end of the year, you can kick out a report based off of ownership percentage, which is nice. Investors can also log in and see that too when they're logging in, if that's a metric you want to display. But the dividends as well. So whatever you've paid out, all you have to do is do those two reports, send it to you. You can do it based off of certain times. So you can do it based off of the year. So last year, obviously for last year's tax returns, but then send it to your CPA, and you don't have to go back and add all that stuff up, calculate it all, pull it from an Excel spreadsheet. You can just download those two reports, send it to CPA, and then hopefully they can start generating those things, and then mass upload the K1s when they come in, which is a nice feature as well too. So.
It's very efficient, and it achieves the ultimate goal of transparency. Like, I love that word that you used. And, from the operator side and from the limited partner side, it's very transparent. Like you said, anyone can go on and check their return at any time. They can see all the communications the operator has sent them over however time period during the hold. That's I think key. And I think the other thing too is, the ability for you guys to take feedback from your clients and grow alongside them is also key. And you don't see that with some other investment management software companies. So just want to give you kudos to that. And as we wind down the show, how can people find you, Brad? Maybe they can they test out InvestNext if they're considering investment management platform? How do they sign up and test it out? And if they like it, can they sign up for it long term? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So we're pretty, we're open with that. We don't have, you can do an annual contract if you want. You get a discount if you do that. You can do month to month, whatever you want. If you want to try it out, hit me up. We'll have you try it out. And we're not trying to hold you to the fire here. We want you to use it. We think that if you use our software or demo us, there's a good chance that you're going to like what you see. So we just want to have our name in the ring, or our name, our hat in the ring, or whatever the term is. But so if you're going to start testing out investment portals, we hope that you test us out. Give us a shot, give us a demo. Like I said, if you want to test it out for a month, we'll be fine with that. You can test it out, or just start doing month to month. And if you don't like it, you can pull all your data out and take it somewhere else. But we'd highly suggest giving us a shot, or hoping that you will. And you can email me, brad@investnext.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Not a big social media guy, but like I said, we're starting to get our name out, and I'm starting to get my face kind of annoyingly in front of everyone. So we've actually started Instagram, which I'm trying to get comfortable with that. But InvestNext Software is our Instagram handle, I guess you'd say. So follow us there too if you want. Hit us up on LinkedIn. You can always go to the investnext.com and request a demo and kind of check everything out too. So pricing's on there too if you want to check it out. But I appreciate it. It's always good catching up with you. Love what you guys are doing there. I see the returns, and I know we don't want to get into returns and everything, but I see some value adds. I see a bunch of different stuff in the portal, but I always like when you guys do a refi, because you're pulling. It seems like you're not only giving everyone's capital back, they're then still getting, they're starting to get into that split, which is nice to be able to do that 12-18 months, and it seems like it's closer to that 12 months. So then they can reinvest that. So what you guys have been doing has been pretty cool to watch. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And if you liked what you heard and or saw, if you can give us a rating and review on iTunes, we'd really appreciate it. It helps Brad and I get our message out to a greater audience. That's just the way iTunes algorithm works. So we would appreciate that, and hope to have Brad on again in the distant future.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'd love that.
Thanks again.